Well, welcome back to another week of Last Week Today. This week we're going to be talking about what Michelle talked about last week when it came to Revelation chapter 2 and the whole theme of Take Me Back. And so for you guys, like as I was thinking about this, I was thinking about me going back to like my time in student ministry and when I was in high school. And I remember like that was like my space was just I would play basketball there, like we would play on Tuesdays and Wednesday nights. But the thing that I remember the most is like the friendships that I made, like they became like my best friends. One of them became my roommate, like most of them were in my wedding, like kind of deal.
Our wedding.
Just your wedding.
It's a big day.
Well, like I remember, if I could pick like one fond memory of like time in student ministry, I think was there was this one time like we were in Sunday school and we left a window unlocked.
Oh no!
And then like later that evening after the church was closed, we snuck in through that window. And we basically just broke into the church.
Good.
Luckily, like the area we were in didn't have like the motion sensor alarms because we were just on the student.
That was a long time ago.
They had motion sensor alarms, but it was definitely
they had electricity.
Wow. Everything was by candle. When I say window, I meant just an open hole. But if I can think of any memory, that would be one. Like. That was probably one of my favorite moments of student ministry was breaking into the church.
Good.
I don't think mine's a moment. Mine are two things that I got at mine's more college ministry. Actually, it's three. I was in Lubbock, Texas, which is the greatest city in all of Texas. B, I came out with two of my very best friends. Did a lot of growing. And then third, the family that fostered, that I kind of got to walk through the fostering process with. That's where they were my first small group leader. And so that family, the Tatum family, my two best friends, and being in Lubbock, Texas, who would not want to be there? I'm sorry y'all didn't get to experience. I think one of my favorite memories was senior year, I think it was, and it was a stress-free night. It was right before final exams. They had puppies, and you could get your nails done, and they had bull riding, and they had Yogurt Mountain, which is my favorite thing in the whole world. And then outside they had a rock wall and a junkyard car that you could just go at with a sledgehammer for as long as you wanted. I've never been so stress-free in my life. And I was like, this is like exactly what everyone needed, on top of like, okay, like all youth group was really good for me because it gave me community, but it's like I get community, I'm already learning about Jesus, but like this is like practical and this is so much fun, and we just had so much fun that night. So
I've always told you we should do a puppy thing.
I was thinking more of the junkyard car.
Well, they do that at
we did the puppy thing in college too, like during
I was thinking
the nail one.
Yeah, I like that part. Good Darless people.
I think for me, one of my stupidest memories.
Are you gonna brag about your youth ministers?
Yeah.
No. It was, I think, mission trip before 8th grade, right? I think that's when it was. Yeah, I didn't go 7th grade, so it was 8th grade.
Yeah.
It's come up. The story's come up a lot in the office this week. But I thought it'd be funny. I didn't like my roommate for mission trip, so I thought it'd be funny. He said he didn't like to sleep when it was cold, so a few hours before bed, I stuck ice cubes in his sleeping bag and in his pillowcase. Which, if you didn't know, ice melts. So he got back to a warm puddle in his bed. And that's when I met Floyd, who came in with Justin and yelled at me. So that was stupid kids. But that has followed me through high school and college, and now my full-time job.
Really, honestly, you should make really good decisions on youth trips because you just don't know if you're going to work for us, and it could come up for years.
You're right. I got the job.
Don't make bad decisions.
He did
That's true. We've come a long way. I kind of lived at the church when I was in middle school and high school, kind of always, but I'm trying to think of a favorite. But we had this camp in the summers. It was called Super Summer, and it was just leadership. So the church would pick a couple of kids from the youth group each grade. And it was my favorite thing because during that trip, we got to have a lot of fun and play stupid games and everything like that. But it was like what got me through the next year because I knew I wasn't alone. Like there were other kids throughout Texas who also loved Jesus and were trying to do the best that they could. So it really encouraged me. But one year in my small group, I just was like doomed. And like we sat in our circle, and while we were praying, the sprinklers went off underneath me. And then like the next day, a bird pooped and it landed on me during prayer. And I just like couldn't make it that week. It was just a struggle bus. But I still loved it. It was still my favorite
That
thing.
can sound genius.
Yeah, it's hard to like impress cute boys at summer camp when like birds are pooping on you and the sprinklers are going off while you're trying to look nice for evening worship. It's a real bummer, but I love that camp. It's my favorite every year. But that memory just came back all of a sudden.
That's
A little shame.
yeah, good and shame.
Yeah, that's right. I know for me, like one of the times that I grew the most in the Lord was during the beginning of college. I think in high school I had one really strong, solid Christian friend, and that was kind of it for most of high school. So when I got to college and I met a lot of girls who loved Jesus and were encouraging me, and like I think my friend Whitney was always writing me notes of encouragement, and then found this church that really pushed me to serve in the church and get involved and pushed me in my understanding of faith and being in small groups. And I made some guy friends that were really Ryan and Justin mainly, like they were the good. But I made some good guy friends that were also encouraging, and I think that was probably the sweetest time and one of the sweetest times in my walk, because I was making my faith my own, picking my own church, picking my own friends, and finding people that really like encouraged and breathed life into me. And I felt alone for so long, so college was so refreshing in that way.
I feel like mine was very similar because like I grew up in church.
Yeah.
Like my mom worked in a church, so I grew up in a church. But my faith wasn't really my own until I came to college.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, oh, like I should actually pursue a relationship with the Lord and not just like be a Christian and sometimes read my Bible and worship.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, this is something that you work on, and this is something that you work to get better as a person and to work through insecurities and hard things. And and I think that's when I was focused, and I was also encouraged most. Like Shelby walked in my room the other day and saw me crying on the floor because I was going through this box that I have that is letter after letter of encouragement that people would like slip under my door, that we did as a dorm group, like at the end of the year, like, okay, like I'm gonna like speak these things over you, like I'm encouraging you because I said this. And like I miss the feeling of like walk in my room and be like, wow, like someone thought about me today and like wanted to encourage me, and like I don't know, almost like going back and being like, wow, like I'm all of these things and I kind of forgot about that. Because like it got hard at the end of college, and like, oh, that's who I used to be. Like I still am that person, I just kind of forgot about it. So like that was my like closest thing to growing.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
I got a really cool opportunity. I think I was in my senior year of college and then part of my first year of grad school. And I did a program called Protege with a mentor. He was the campus pastor at Raider Church where I worked. And in that time, so we did Protege, and it was a 2-year program, and we learned a lot about leadership in the church. We went to Thailand together. We would meet like Tuesday mornings at 5 o'clock. So it was like really like a lot of, we read like a ton of books on leadership. The coolest part was I think there was 11 of us, maybe 9 of us in the group, but they were all different ages. And so just learning from people who were married with families, and I think Spencer was the youngest one, but just learning what it was like to be a leader in the church. I was also support raising at that time to be on staff at Raider Church, and that was one of the most challenging things I've ever done, but my relationship with the Lord was so strong because you just had to kind of defend why you were working for a church, because you had to explain what you were doing. And so I think my senior year of college, that was when I already had, or I was like new to my faith, but I had my feet like completely planted, and it was a good season.
I think for me, it was probably my first summer after freshman year of college. Coming back to my youth ministers, I signed up to basically volunteer on any trip I could And then Floyd called me and asked, "Oh, do you just want a job? And we'll pay you to go on these trips instead of you paying us." I was like, "Sure."
A lot of money, a whole lot of money.
A whole lot of money. I was rolling in it.
Rolling intern salary.
Yeah. But I didn't even know what I was looking for, but then I just kind of found the calling. I knew I wanted to serve somehow. I just wanted to volunteer and help out with more behind the scene kind of stuff. And then it ended up I had a job, and I really got into the behind the scenes stuff more than just volunteering as a volunteer. And so just that summer, finding what felt like my calling and just growing in what I wanted to do. Now I wanted to serve the Lord more than just going to church, but doing other stuff with it. That was the sweetest time probably I had with my faith.
I'm actually.
Aw, and
Well, we needed you too. I remember Suzanne being like, "Oh my gosh," being like, "Y'all should hire Jared." And we're like, "We need Jared. Does he want to come?" And I think just it's been so cool to watch. I think that it's just a really big blessing. You're so special to us to watch you from 7th grade and to see you discover your calling and your heart for behind the scenes. And God knows you're doing a lot of behind the scenes now. Yeah. But it's just fun. It's just a huge blessing to watch you grow over the years. Sorry. He just was that brat kid that put ice in somebody's sleeping bag.
Man, you never saw it coming.
And even I remember you asking, could you help out with middle school stuff in high school? I remember it was being an awkward middle schooler. And
You were so awkward.
I know, we gotta find those pictures.
I know. We can put it in this video.
Yeah, he's in charge
Right
of
now.
He probably won't put the
It feels like I'm talking to my parents and oh, look at our little kid. Oh, going up.
I'll stop.
We're just so proud.
Yeah. I guess for me, a time that I felt the closest to the Lord would be for a lot of us, freshman year of college, and I remember just getting to meet new people, whether it was through the fish camp or Impact, and going to Breakaway and being in Bible studies and having these deep Jesus conversations all the time. They became natural, and I met people who had the same kind of I feel a youth group experience that I did, and they were leading their youth group and had a lot of people looking up to them, but I didn't really have anybody to talk to about it. And this was also a time where I felt I was stretched as a Christian, and things that I thought I believed or thought I understood about the Bible were challenged, and it was cool getting to pursue answers and spend time in the Word, reading about these things, or spend time talking to mentors or talking to friends and just processing. And so it was just I just remember that freshman year just being so sweet, because there's so much, I felt the Lord was showing me and revealing to me in just these different moments of my life that I hadn't had in high school. And so I feel that was probably one of the more precious moments in the development of my faith.
Yeah, and I think we had a friend that described college as the time where you have the most amount of freedom with the least amount of responsibility. So I think it does set that opportunity for you to really grow in the Lord, and that's kind of all of our stories. But what I think is really cool about a lot of our students is we see a lot of maturity in their conversation and their relationships, and sometimes I envy the experience that they're having with their community.
Not right now.
Yeah, the ability to have those deep conversations, and like Bella said, I always have good intentions to write people encouraging notes. What a blessing it is when I receive them, and I need to actually act on it.
Yeah. There are times where it's every day. I was I don't deserve it.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, and it's just cool because you remember these moments that are so formative for us as believers and our faith, and they're not just us sitting by ourselves. It was some type of community, some new people that or mentors have poured into us, and so I think that's just really special. And something for us to remember is in those moments of we're at the high points, and we didn't get there by ourselves. We're all good people, so that's special.
That's good.
So thinking about all of these good experiences, and in light of what you talked about last week, Michelle, I think that a moment that I remember as being one of my driest moments, or times when I felt the furthest away from the Lord, was probably my senior year of high school. At that point, my youth minister, he left in March of my senior year, and so from March until I left for A&M, it was me and my friends that were leading the student ministry, and so that meant our Wednesday night programming was us, and so it was either me teaching or me finding someone to teach, and then me also leading worship with my friends, and there's a season where everybody's looking at me, expecting me to make a decision or lead, at least in the spiritual side. I didn't really do the whole playing side. I don't do the playing side now, much less when I was
You've grown.
18 years old. But I just remember always having to play the part, and I just felt so far from the Lord. It was I wasn't studying the Bible for my own sake. I was I've got to teach something, or I've got to give advice, or be there for someone else, and so I was doing all of these good things, kind of like we talked about last week. But it just felt so empty. I didn't feel. It was almost like it was two Floyds. I had the Floyd that was in front of everybody, and then the Floyd that was at home. It was just lost, And so that was one of those moments where I just remember it just felt dark, and it just felt far away. And even though God was close with His promises out, I just did not feel that He was there.
I think for me also was when I was trying to play both sides. My freshman year of college, of course, breakup, that's how everybody starts. But I just was longing for something more, and it's kind of weird because I didn't know what I was missing, because I didn't ever have. I knew who Jesus was, He was my Savior, but I didn't have that personal relationship with Him. But I started hanging out with new people because I just needed new community, and I started going to a church in Lubbock and making new friends, and I just saw that all of the joy that they had, and some weekends I was hanging out with them, but some weekends I was still hanging out with the crowd that I didn't make good choices with. And so I kind of knew what I was missing, but didn't have the whole picture just yet. But that was exhausting. I'm usually filled with joy 99. It's hard for me not to I don't get upset super. I cry a lot, but I'm not upset a lot. But that was just a season where I was I do not know what's going on, but I need something bigger than what I'm after. And so I think my freshman year, it was from March to May, I was kind of seeing the light with the friends that I was hanging out with, but again, still not completely sure what it looked like. So it was confusing and definitely not one of my best seasons.
I was probably end of sophomore year in college, in junior year. It was just, I spent a lot of time. I'd finish class at 10 a.m. and lay in bed all day. Wouldn't do anything else. So it's just a state of depression for those couple of years. And with that, I didn't have any motivation to do anything. So I wasn't going to church. I wasn't volunteering with anything. I did intern again that next summer, and that was a good break from it. But it was still in the back of my mind. I knew what I was missing, and I wasn't doing what I needed to do to be the person I wanted to be. And so it was conflicting. I know what I'm missing, this is what I should be doing, and then, I just don't really want to do anything at all. And that was probably the hardest time for me, just knowing I was missing out on something great, but not doing anything to change it.
Mine was junior year of college, which is weird for me to say because senior year was my darkest, worst. It was bad, but because I was processing things with the Lord, I knew He was near, and I was okay, this is something that the Lord is pulling me through to get me healthy. So I felt close that year, but junior year started with a breakup over summer, and then I was mad and I was angry and I was bitter at the Lord. I'm God, why? This is not what I thought was going to happen. So I shut down and I didn't process anything, which led me to making bad decisions, which led me to not I was angry, and I was all right, God, I don't want to do this. Bye. Yeah. And it's not I just abandoned my faith, but I didn't have community. I didn't have looking for something new because my friends from the year before and I were not in a good place at that point. So I'm like, okay, like I need friends. And then I thought I found some. And I started making really, really, really bad choices, which led to like the worst heartbreak that I've ever experienced. And then I was like, okay, well, we're not going to process this because last time I told someone it didn't go well and people told me mean things that shouldn't have been said. And so I just felt alone and, gosh, I don't want to cry.
I've already done it.
But it's like, God, like, why did that have to happen? And then I just didn't deal with it. And I think that's when I always feel farthest with God, is because I don't process something and I just like carry it and carry it and carry it and carry it, and it sits like a rock and it gets heavy and hard. And I'm like, well, those were all my choices. Like, I could have changed the way this turned out, but I didn't. And that's something that I even like work on now, of like, wow, I regret that. Can't change it, but like, I can't live in the past either. That was no bueno.
Yeah, I think one of my, I'm old now, so there's lots of seasons. But I think in high school, I'm like, my mentor warned me. She was like, this relationship that you're thinking about is not a good decision. And I said, well, I'm in high school and you've been in bad relationships and I want my turn to figure it out on my own, you know, real wise. A super nice guy, but it just wasn't a relationship that would honor God. And I knew it going into it, and I just wanted to enjoy my sin. And so I just really struggled because I would feel God's call to repentance, and I would sit there on Sunday morning and cry, or Wednesday night, whenever, and I knew what he was calling me to do, and I'd say, okay, I'm going to walk in obedience. And then I just would continue to go right back to my sin. And, you know, at that point, there was so much guilt and shame that I didn't realize God's loving kindness, that he was just providing opportunity after opportunity for me to turn. And there could have been so much that I could have done had I just walked that one step in obedience. Like, I wonder what high school could have looked like, what those next steps could have been like. But I just would not make that initial step. And kind of like what y'all have talked about, you know, I was faking it for sure, a leader in my youth group, but internally I wasn't sharing with anybody because I was ashamed of myself. And I didn't really want the real Michelle to be exposed. I wanted to keep up this good girl facade or whatever. And I just needed to repent, you know, and obey. And I finally just had to tell God, like, I'm not going to be obedient. Like, I need you to rip this out of my hands. Turns out ripping is a lot harder than just opening your hands and giving it.
Yeah.
Surrender is better.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're watching this and you feel that call to repent, like, let it go. Don't do
it. So much easier. So much less painful.
Yeah. So that was probably one of my harder seasons. And like I said, I had lots of ways I could manipulate myself to say that what I was doing was fine. But I'm thankful that God finally stepped in and intervened.
And I think that's one of the sweet things about this series, is just the idea that no matter how far we get away, He's going to bring us back.
Yeah.
You know? And so, like, yeah, like it's a struggle and we all have them, but like, the Lord is always helping us to reach.
Yeah, and he's just like so much sweeter. And you're convincing yourself right now that what you are chasing after is better. So, like, please listen to old people tell you, like, he is so much sweeter. It is so worth it.
Cool.
That's it.
All right.
Easy. So much better than last
I'll get you
time.
pros.